Happy birthday to you. If you are a July baby, then you know what your birthstone is. It's rubies. And today on A Jeweler's Life, we're going to cover everything that you'd like to know about rubies. So the word ruby comes from the Latin word ruber, which means red. As a jeweler, I love working on rubies. Mostly because if you look at the Mohs hardness scale, rubies are at a 9, which leaves only moissanite and diamonds to be harder stones than rubies themselves. So the nice thing about working with a stone like a ruby is, usually as jewelers, the thing that we're most terrified about is when we're setting a stone, cracking that stone. You can ask any jeweler that you may know, visit one, and you ask them what's their least favorite stone to set. And I guarantee you that emerald is gonna be on that list. It's super soft, but with rubies, we feel like we really have no issue and there's a lot of leeway in terms of the sensitivity that we can set the stone with. So rubies over time have been found in plenty of different places all over the world, including Afghanistan, Colombia, Australia, Brazil, Pakistan, Nepal, and about 10 other countries, including the US. Actually really cool that here in South Carolina and in North Carolina, our northern neighbor, there have actually been ruby deposits that have been found. So rubies are priced based on two aspects, both color and clarity, which if you know anything about the gem world or diamond world, you're pretty familiar with the term clarity and color. And so for those of you that aren't that familiar, clarity is essentially how clear the lack of inclusions or the amount of inclusions that the stone itself has in its final state. Color just talks about the intensity of that color. So rubies come in very different shades, and we'll get into that here in a second. Maybe you guys have heard of like a pigeon red or pigeon blood ruby. All that's referring to is essentially the most desirable type of ruby, which is one that is literally like blood red. It is very beautiful, very clear, and those are the most coveted rubies in the entire world. So rubies themselves have different hues, and those hues, they have primary hues, which are always red. That is the primary hue on all rubies, and then it has secondary hues, which can vary from pink, orange, violet, and purple, which is very interesting because if you look at a ruby, if you go inside of a jewelry store and you see what they have, there are very different colored rubies. We consider like the pinkish hue to be almost like commercial quality, and usually they're very opaque. You can't see through them. But overall, what we're looking for is that really nice, clear, just blood red ruby. The next characteristic that we're looking for in rubies and that it's graded upon is clarity. And so clarity, again, is just the lack of inclusions or how many inclusions in its final polished state the stone has. So when we talk about clarity, something that you'll hear, a phrase that you'll hear, a term that you hear thrown around is eye clean. And as jewelers, we love to use the word eye clean because eye clean for us, rather than saying flawless, internally flawless, VVS1, VVS2, and just go down the 15 different clarity classifications, eye clean automatically lets us know that it's over a certain scale. And usually what that means is that to the naked eye, there is nothing that you can see in terms of inclusions. Now, under a microscope, you may be able to find some inclusions, but at least to the naked eye, there's nothing there that you're gonna have to worry about, which is nice. Usually the stones that are right above eye clean, I consider are the biggest bang for your buck because you can get away with some inclusions that will bring the retail value of the stone down, but the eye value, the stone value in terms of what you're seeing in the ring, on the pendant, wherever it may be, it's something that's gonna look very pleasing to the naked eye without having to worry about spending goo-boos amount of money to find that perfectly flawless ruby. So something that a lot of people don't realize with gemstones is that in many cases, gemstones are actually much more expensive than diamonds. And reason being is because with diamonds, since there's a larger supply, there are more essentially nicer clarity diamonds or higher clarity diamonds worldwide than there are gemstones, especially with rubies. So when we're talking about a ruby that is considered flawless, if you look at the per carat price, it usually is 3 to 4 times that of its diamond equivalent. So another aspect that we want to cover today with rubies, and it's very important whether you're shopping for a ruby or you're considering as having a ruby as part of your jewelry box in the future, is that rubies usually go through a few different types of treatments. What you're looking for, the most desirable and of course the most expensive, are just natural rubies that have no treatment whatsoever and look that way. The majority of rubies that you're going to see in jewelry stores and available for purchase are going to be treated. And what this means is that there has been some kind of process that has been brought in, that has been used to improve, usually it's either the color or the clarity of the ruby. One of those processes is heat treatment. And so what the heat treatment does is essentially it brings out a darker, richer color out of the ruby itself and kind of gets it closer, at least as close as possible as the material that ruby is being cut out of to get to being that blood red color that we're all looking for. And then the second treatment that rubies undergo and is a little bit more prevalent nowadays, which me personally, I'm not a big fan of as a jeweler, just working on them, it's called lead filled. And so I know when we hear anything lead related, we're a little worried because we think about like lead paint on walls and how it has caused health issues. It's not anything like that where you have to worry about the ruby that you're wearing causing you any health issues. But the biggest issue is that they've essentially taken lead, infused it into the ruby, and they are filling fractures that ruby has. And so that's essentially taking care of some of those inclusions that you may see. Now, the biggest problem with both the heat treatment and the lead filled is that depending on who's working on it or maybe what you're doing at home to clean it and the care that you have for it, those treatments can go away. And the once beautiful ruby that you had now looks completely different and essentially goes back to its original state, almost like taking makeup off at the end of the night. So rubies, in terms of price, are completely all over the place. You can get literally the same exact ruby, let's say a like 6 carat ruby can cost you $300 for retail, and that's one that, let's say, is treated, it's been lead filled, heat treated, and it's kind of pinkish ruby, but it's still considered a ruby because gemologically that's what it is. Now we take the same size and we go over to a non-treated whatsoever, let's call it like a Burmese rubies, which typically the rubies from Burma are one of the most coveted rubies in the world. They just have nicer ruby deposits than the rest of the world does there. And so those rubies can go for as much as $200,000 per carat, which is absolutely insane. If you're a July baby, I hope this helped. I hope you guys get some rubies on your fingers, in your ears. Guys, listen up. If it's your girl's birthday and it's July, come in, get her a ruby. She wants one. Everybody wants rubies. Till next time, a jeweler's life out.